Okay, Chief Reed, the floor is yours.
Great. Good day, everyone. I would like to call the May 19th Fire Service Membership Council Governing Committee meeting to order. Carl, can you please do a roll?
Yes, ma'am. Chief Reed, I've got you. I believe Tim Deal will be joining if he can, but I don't see him yet. Brian Adams, I've got you. Rick Boisford, I have you. Chief Buxton, Fire Marshal Desrochers, I've got both of you. Chief Farley or Marshal Farley is out on annual leave today, so he is excused. Chief Hyde, do I see you?
I'm here, Carl.
Gotcha. Thank you, Chief. Chief King.
Here, sir.
Gotcha. Thank you. Chief Lane. Chief Lane. Marshal Lund, I've got you. Chief Medina. Marshal Nelson, I've got you. Coy Porter, are you on? Steve Swarthout is excused today. I believe he's on travel. And Chief Wassom, are you on? And I believe he's got an assessment at his fire department. Is that right, Christine?
I'm not sure that I got that notification.
Something along those lines. And then Director Sayers, are you on? Director Sayers. I see you there, Director Brown. You may be pinch hitting today. Director Metz may be able to join us, may not. He texted me earlier. So I will just do a quick check and make sure we still have a quorum. We do. Chief Reed, you have a quorum.
Great, thank you. Okay, we're going to move right into our guest presentation. I'd like to introduce Robert Marshall. He is the chair for the ICC Fire Code Action Committee. He is also the Division Chief Fire Marshal for the San Mateo Consolidated Fire Department in California. He's going to give us an update on what the FCAC is doing. So Robert, I will turn it over to you. Good morning. I have to remember which time zone everybody's in.
And it's I'm sure it's super difficult to remember which time zone I'm in for you, right? So but anyway, hey, nice to see a lot of you. There's quite a few of you that we have met and know pretty well, and there's several of you that are probably new to me anyway, it looks like, but I'm happy to kind of virtually meet all of you. So yeah, I'm Robert Marshall. I am the current chair of the Fire Code Action Committee, also a member of the Fire and Life Safety section. I'm Secretary Treasurer for the Fire and Life Safety section for iChiefs as well, with Chief King there. So we, Fire Code Action Committee, as most of you probably know, is one of the code action committees that ICC has that helps to kind of develop and vet code proposals. Generally speaking, as you all know, the code process is something in which we look for consensus and try and figure out what needs to be done about a given fire protection problem. And so we look at all these different things, we meet together, and we come up with kind of the things that we'd like to see done and come up with those code change proposals to do that. The nice thing about FCAC is that if it gets through FCAC, we have a really high success rate of getting things into the code and changing stuff. So it works out really well that way. So that's kind of the background on FCAC. One other thing with FCAC is there are voting members, but there are a lot of interested parties as well. As far as the voting members go, there is usually around 15 to 20 people. It kind of depends on what's going on and who actually participates and all that, but it's usually right in that general vicinity as far as folks go. We also have fantastic support from the ICC staff. Beth Tubbs is our main person. Keith Enstrom is our secondary guy. They're both really, really great at kind of doing what needs to be done as far as the background stuff. So that is a very cool thing to be a part of. But now there's also the interested parties, and of the interested parties, we typically have somewhere between 150 and 200 interested parties who come and help us kind of vet everything. Generally speaking, people are, maybe one or two issue kinds of folks, but we get a lot of participation kind of across the board on all of the things that we do. As far as the things that we're working on, so in the Group A cycle, we had quite a bit that we did regarding particularly making sure that we had energy storage systems covered and things like that. Got somebody who's bleeding through on me.
Yeah, that's what wore the head out.
There we go.
I think we got it.
Perfect, thank you. Like I said, energy storage systems was one of the big things that we had in the Group A. Wildland urban interface is another area where we are focusing a lot of attention, as well as emergency responder communication systems, or ERCC systems. Those are big deals. Some other things that you're going to see in the next version of the code. There was one of the kind of stranger things that I think we took on was that we had the Chapter 6, as a lot of you know, in the fire code had a lot of stuff in there about heating appliances and kind of temporary kinds of conditions rather than building services and systems. So we took that stuff and we actually created a new chapter. So all of the temporary stuff you'll see in a new chapter, which is very cool. There's also a lot of stuff that's going on in the world of kind of, and COVID kind of brought this forward, but that is around making sure that people are dealing with temporary events and how they deal with temporary events and how those are inspected and the permitting required for them. So there's quite a bit in relation to that. So that's another one of the focus areas that we have. In the Group B cycle, what the main thing that we were involved in this time around, and it's still ongoing, is we got involved in the 104, Chapter 104 in the fire code, as well as all the rest of the codes, looking at how 104 works and how it interacts, and particularly around how things work with making sure that alternate means are done. A lot of the big questions with regard to alternate means was around what kind of documentation needs to be provided, particularly if you're using test standards that are not common test standards, and how would an authority having jurisdiction know whether or not a test standard was good or bad, or how are we going to do that? Because obviously an authority having jurisdiction does not always have the ability to get stuff. They may not see a standard, and so if somebody's using that as an alternate, should they provide that to the AHJ? And then a lot of discussion around that particular point. But they're all good discussions. I think it's one of those things where we often see where there's a number of things that people bring up, and we realize that the section is not working the way that it should, maybe not completely broken, but it doesn't work 100% the way that it should either. And so looking at those things and making sure that everybody gets a say and everybody gets something to talk about is really, really important. and to make sure that everybody who wants a voice has a voice. And so as chair, that's one of my biggest challenges, is making sure that we get all those voices in and make sure that we actually have people who feel comfortable talking, and people aren't walking all over each other and that kind of stuff. Because as you all know, we have some strong personalities in this industry, and making sure that everybody can have their voices heard is one of the important things to me. So moving forward, so we've got basically 7 different groups that do different things. So active fire protection, passive fire protection, special events, WUI, things like that. And so we'll be looking into a lot of that stuff moving forward, and continue to look at those things. One of the big things that happened last cycle was carbon monoxide kind of came to the forefront again. There was a person who submitted a code change proposal, complete layperson, not a code professional, not a person who's a consultant for anybody. It simply was a group of people who had been impacted in some way by having carbon monoxide either kill or seriously injure them or a loved one. And so they submitted a code change proposal to increase the amount of carbon monoxide alerting that is in all occupancies, not just residential occupancies or hospitals and that kind of thing. The code proposal wasn't a great code proposal, even though everybody understood what they were trying to do. And so as FCAC, we actually agreed to take it on and do the consensus process and get a whole bunch of people involved. And we actually got it in. So in 2024, you'll actually see carbon monoxide greatly expanded over what it was. That said, though, we were actually all kind of surprised that it did go through. Our intent was to put it forward and see what comments we got back. And everybody basically said, you know what, we like it. Yeah, there's some problems with it still, but we're going to move forward with it, and they put it into the code. So that's one of the big focuses, is going to be to fix some things that are in there, particularly around healthcare. There's some unintended consequences there, and so we're going to try and move that forward. Wildland urban interface continues to be a big issue all across the country, not just in California where I'm located, but trying to make that kind of a standardized approach. And particularly now that there's more testing going on, we're trying to make sure that we get the latest and greatest technology and the best practices for wildland urban interface and protection of homes and livelihoods in those areas. So that'll be another big focus. There's still quite a bit of focus around kind of things related to exterior cladding. We put some things into the code last time, but I continually hear more things need to be done. So I anticipate that being a thing moving forward. Energy storage systems is probably the biggest one. There's a lot of stuff going on with that, particularly when it comes to UL 9540A and the exemptions there. We're seeing a lot of fires that are coming up, and that is, despite people actually starting to build things in a code compliant way. But then a lot of places that were built before the codes even existed, and what needs to be done as far as existing energy storage systems, because they obviously pose a hazard to our fire responders, and that's something that we need to take care of. So I expect there to be a lot of stuff kind of around there. Some other stuff probably kind of on the periphery. I don't know how many of you have heard of ghost kitchens, but particularly during the pandemic, these started to kind of pop up quite a bit. But a ghost kitchen is where you have a restaurant that serves food, obviously, but right now, if you have an Uber Eats or DoorDash or something like that, it goes to the restaurant and they cook the food and they send it out and everything. But that's in addition to who they might actually have in their restaurant. These ghost kitchens are facilities that are created that have, in some cases, 50 or 60 kitchens that are all side by side, and they each one of them is a different restaurant. And so that kind of presents some really strange challenges there. I've got one that's in my jurisdiction, for example, that's 35 kitchens. And if one hood goes off, they all have individual hoods in the restaurant, but if one hood goes off, all of the makeup air turns off as well. And so, right, so you can tell that would be a problem. And so we need to do some stuff in relation to that, and particularly like fire alarms as well. If you've got a fire in one kitchen, everybody in those other kitchens won't necessarily know what's going on in there. And so are there some notification things that may need to occur in those kinds of situations? So those are kind of the major things that FCAC is kind of starting to talk about. Which brings me to a pitch, which is the code gets better when people participate. And it's not just a matter of, this person doing this thing, or, there are certainly people who everybody knows are involved in the code process. I saw Jeff Shapiro just get on, and everybody knows that he's involved in the process. But we need we need a lot more people to be involved in the process, because again, that makes it so that we come out with a better end product. And I think that is probably the best thing about what FCAC does, is we get all these people together before the code hearings, and we can argue all this stuff out and figure out what needs to be done. And so that's, my encouragement would be to get people involved, and particularly get new people involved. We are seeing over time the people who have always been at the code hearings finally decide that they're done doing that and they want to retire. And we still see them from time to time, but like Jim Tidwell is a great example of that, where he was very involved, and now he wants to spend time not arguing code. And so we need people to fill in behind that, and that's where the ask comes in. So that's really all I have to say for now. If you guys have any questions, I'm happy to chat with you about whatever questions you might have.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions for Robert?
Robert, it's Andy.
Hi, Andy.
I was just going to ask you to elaborate, because I haven't been as involved in FCAC lately. How's it working with the transition when you went virtual, now back to more in person, and the code hearings versus all that dynamic? What does that look like to you, and where is it going?
Yeah, so the a couple of different things. So like having the code hearings virtually was good in some ways. It was great in the fact that we were able to get that done, but it was, I think, harder in a lot of cases. Particularly, I was on the committee. Ed Kaminsky, who's also on this call, was also on that committee, and several of us were that are on this. And the one thing that I think we noticed about that being a virtual experience is that typically when you're doing the hearings in person, you can kind of read the room and figure out where people stand on something. And for lack of a more gentler way to say this, know when to shut up, which didn't happen there. We had a lot of cases where us in the room were looking at each other going, yeah, we get it. Can you guys just stop so we can take a vote now? And we can just move on with this and stop beating the dead horse over and over and over again. And oh, great, you brought in another horse that we're going to beat to death, and that kind of thing. So that, I don't see us going back to that. As far as FCAC goes, I think we're still kind of working our way through that. But overall, I don't see us going back to a substantial in-person thing. I think we will still have in-person, but I think substantially a lot of the work is actually going to be done virtually. It allows for more vetting, in my opinion, but it is definitely harder to manage, particularly if you've got a lot of code proposals. So, and then I think, always the networking part of it is hard. It's hard to network if you're only meeting people on Zoom. But I've met a lot of people and started to network kind of offline, just because people know where I stand on something, or I know where they stand on something, or, something like that. So a good example of that for me anyway is Richard Roberts, who's a consultant, but we started working together on the carbon monoxide thing. And now we talk actually quite frequently about stuff completely unrelated to FCAC. But then if something does come up related to that, he's available, and I've got a new person in the virtual Rolodex to be able to help. But great question, Andy.
Any other questions for Robert? Robert, I have a couple. One, you were mentioning at the end about becoming involved. Can you guide people on how they can either reach out and how they can connect with someone or you on FCAC to get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. The easiest way is to email Beth Tubbs. If you go to ICC's website, you can get on the interested parties list. Just go to iccsafe.org and look for the code action committees, go to the FCAC page, and you can see a lot of our work there too, actually, but you can get involved from that. Anybody who's on here could probably also let Carl know, and he could get you involved as well and get you in the right places and tell you how to do that. If you happen to have my email address as well, I can certainly get you in there. So, but the easiest way, the best way is going to be to go to the FCAC page.
I like it.
And do that. So.
Yeah, it looks good.
It does
Okay.
look good.
Carrie, you're off mute. So the other question I have, or kind of more of a comment in a way, is, you know, we within one of our work groups, and I don't want to speak for Michael Desrochers, but who is the lead of our emergent issues and trends work group. And this work group talks a lot about up and coming technologies or things that are being found. You know, they're doing some great work with certain current topics right now that are going on that the codes may not really be developed to address or answer those topics. And we've had previous discussions about possibly being able to solicit information from FCAC with some of the things that we're seeing on the outskirts, but not quite knowing if FCAC has vetted this or kind of evaluated situations for future code proposals. So one, I guess the pitch would be, would that be something that you and FCAC would be open to having that dialogue, communication back and forth? That would be really helpful, I think, for our work group, so that we can get the most information moving forward. And then, well, I guess that's part of the I guess the request. And again, hopefully you're able to stay on for more of the meeting during our work group updates, because I'm sure, and Michael's on, so I'm sure he'll be able to talk a little bit more about some of the things that the work group has been working on. So I think that's how we're going to be able to work with some of these topics, is see what have we got and where is it going, whether it's throughout the country or within code adoption. So so I appreciate that. So
yeah, no, and so to your point, absolutely. And if you guys come up with stuff, feel free to reach out to me directly, and I can figure out, one, I can tell you whether or not it's on our radar or not. But two, Beth and I can talk about it, and we can put it on the radar and actually agendize it for one of our meetings. One other thing, and I know it's an outside organization, being that we're on an ICC related call, but the fire and life safety section through iChiefs, that's one of the things that we do as well. We obviously have members who are in this work group or in the Fire Service Membership Council and other councils, but we also have a lot of people who are involved in the the NFPA standards processes. So, sometimes we know about stuff that's going on through there, and whether or not, a particular thing is going to occur from that side. A good example of that is the inflatable spray booths. That came through the NFPA process first, and I'm certain that will come up at some point coming soon as well. So, so yeah, absolutely. It's, the more eyes that we have on that kind of stuff, the better off we'll be.
great, thank you. All right, last call for any questions or comments for Robert. Robert, thank you very much for being here with us today. Hopefully you're able to stay on for another portion of our meeting. But we appreciate all the work that FCAC is doing, and you know, looking to the future is sometimes difficult when you're years and years out. So it's helpful to hear what you all are working on to help us be able to prepare for it. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And not to make anybody feel old, but the next cycle that we start working on is for the 2027 code. So yeah, good luck to you all. Anyway,
All
thanks
right.
for having me. I appreciate it.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, so next on the agenda is any additions or corrections to the agenda? Hearing none, I'd now like to call for an approval of the minutes.
I'd offer that motion, Buxton.
Second one.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Great, thank you. All right, so we'll go into the work group updates. Carl, you have the first item for the work group membership standing meeting dates.
I do. Thank you, Chief Reed. I just wanted to remind the governing committee, as well as the interested parties that are with us here today, that we have now scheduled all of the work group meetings between now and the end of the year for the most part. So what I would encourage you to do is, if you are not a standing member of the committees and would like to join, particularly for our other interested parties, please email me. I'll put my email in the chat here in just a moment, and we'll be glad to add you to those standing calendar invites. And for the governing committee, if you're not assigned to a particular group that you're interested in, for example, many of the chairs of each of the groups like to join the others just to kind of hear what work is going around and what might be coming on their plate. Let me know, and I'll be glad to add you to those meetings as well too. So I'll put my email in the chat here momentarily, and just let me know, and I'll get you plugged into those standing meetings between now and the end of the year.
Great, thank you very much.
Sure.
Next work group, member recruitment, Andy. Is Andy still with, oh, sorry, I see a hand raised. Matt, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, just maybe it's Microsoft Teams for me, but I was just wondering if other people were seeing the chat. I can't seem to find it for some reason today, since Carl just brought it up.
For me, it's on the upper right-hand menu bar next to people and in between reactions and people. Are you seeing it?
Nope. But I'm also on a Mac, so maybe that's
If
probably.
you're on a phone, Matt, just go to the there's like a 3-dot area that you can go to that has reactions and like where you can raise your hand in it, and then the chat feature, I believe, is right in there.
Yeah, for some reason it's not showing up, but all right, thanks. I just wasn't sure if it was just on my end, which apparently it is.
All right. I was going to throw it to Andy King for membership recruitment, but I'm not seeing him on the call anymore.
He just sent me a message that said that he had to bow out. He's got a IAFC Fire and Life Safety Section meeting for their upcoming conference. So I think he had to leave right at the top of the hour.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to emerging issues and trends. Michael.
Good morning and good afternoon to everybody. So we had our monthly meeting on Monday, and we have about 6, maybe 7 different items that we kind of hit on. Between now and our meeting next month, I'll be putting together the tracking forms for these particular topics. And we had a pretty good turnout for the meeting, so thanks for those that jumped on the call. I appreciate that. We're looking at discussing internally here some of these sleeping pod type issues that are occurring. We're looking at in-building communication systems. And I realize that some of that stuff is in the code, but we're looking at it from a wider angle. We're going to be discussing some issues there. Something interesting too on home-based business was also brought up, where a lot of businesses are being set up into residential occupancies, some without permits and without zoning, and where do we sit in there? Is there an issue here and so forth? That's just something we briefly touched on Monday. We had a few-minute discussion about vacant buildings. We know that this has been a focal point of discussion here the past couple months. We're going to keep this on our radar and have discussion here next month on vacant buildings. Whether there may be some public awareness benefits here. Can we do some outreach to the fire service or messaging and that kind of stuff? Also, Gary West from NFSA was in our meeting and brought up, of course, the warehouse fires, the big warehouse fires, Home Depot, Amazon. So next month we'll be discussing that as a group. There's quite a bit of subject matter there, right? Is there a gap in training out there? Are these buildings properly protected? That kind of stuff. So we'll be discussing that at our next meeting as well. And then the everlasting lithium ion battery storage came up. And so we'll be tracking that particular item as well. And that was a good presentation from Robert Marshall there. I think he was on our meeting, our group meeting. And of course, now Ed is on our committee too, and Ed offers a lot of insight to us too. So thank you, Ed, for your participating as well. So that's our report. Next month meeting will be very busy. We like to see people jump on. The more people we have, the better information we can get and so forth. So I welcome anybody to join our work group, and I also shared with them with the work group the PowerPoint program that Kelly and I put together and instructed at the National Association of State Fire Marshals Conference. So we asked our group members to take a look at that, and if there's edits or things that could be added to make it a better program for future delivery, we would be interested in that as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael. The next is public awareness. Steve couldn't be here today. I'll just give a brief update. The work group met last week, re-evaluated the goals of the work group. A couple of things, kind of prioritized them. As we know, Building Safety Month, this month, the tweets have been going out every day. Thank you, Carl, for sending those out. Some of the other things that we're moving on the goals is looking at how to approach the AHJ guide or information to developing a residential sprinkler ordinance. And we have brought this up for discussion or an update before. We don't want to reinvent the wheel from either other agencies or other associations or companies that have this kind of information. So we're going through a kind of a research process right now to see if it's something that we might be able to direct AHJs to go to an existing document, or if it's something we need to create a little bit more. So again, it's more of some higher level guidance to start AHJs with the idea of how do they approach adopting a residential sprinkler ordinance, and who do they talk to, and what the stakeholders are, and things like that. So so they also have their meeting on the second Thursday at 10 Pacific, 1 Eastern, 1 p.m. Eastern. So please feel free to join that work group as well. It's a little shy on members at the moment, and participating interested members. So please feel free if you're interested in helping to develop and distribute information to our membership, and kind of understand how we move out information to help the general public, then please join those meetings. Sorry, I'm just scrolling. Yes, Jeff, your hand is up.
Yeah, I only caught part of what you said, but I'm assuming you're aware of the document that NASPM and IAFC put together on that topic. Did you say you were updating what they were doing, or you're doing something new?
No, actually, that's great. I'm not sure if the work group is aware of that document, but I will certainly let them know that there is. And that was part of what I was saying was, we don't want to necessarily reinvent the wheel. If there is an agency or organization that already has a good document that can have that, we want to be able to direct people in case they don't know about it. So I will definitely pass on that information. Thank you. About this existing document.
I think it was a FEMA grant program, and in the back of my mind, I'm remembering it was done by NASPM. I think Jim Tidwell did it, and it was basically a how-to guide for jurisdictions to adopt a residential sprinkler ordinance, exactly what you're talking about.
Perfect. Okay, that's great. Yeah, if there's anything that we can do to help spread out that word in case it's a little hidden, or people don't know about it. So thank you for that information. I will definitely pass that on.
Yeah, Carl, do you have it, or do you need me to get it?
You caught me in another screen looking for it. So we'll
you have it, or
do
you want me to?
you get it first?
Sorry, do you want me to look for it, or are you going to get it?
I'm close, so keep looking and I'll let you know if I've got it here in a second.
All right, well, just send me a message if you need me to get it for you, and I'll find it. I'm sure I have it.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Carl. And then our last work group is training and education. Mark?
Thank you, Chief. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Having some equipment issues, so I had to use the headset, but hey, everybody, just a quick update from me. We had a meeting last week with just a few of us attending that one, but we really just talked about the course proposals we sent to the ICC for the annual business meeting. Just give a quick summary on what we proposed. First one had to do with energy storage systems and preparing the fire service for responses to those. That would be Chief O'Brien with Brighton Area Fire Authority. Second proposal was vacant buildings. Be a similar presentation to what we heard in our membership council meeting in Rochester a few months ago by Ray O'Brockie. And we're also putting one forward about flammable refrigerants with Sean DeCrane. So I don't think we've seen the final results yet to see which ones made the cut and made the agenda, but we hope to see that here shortly. So I think in the meantime, I just ask if anyone has ideas of, I guess, organizations that are looking for presentations or ideas for classes to get in touch with me and get me those. I do keep a list of related groups that we might send proposals to and respond to a call for proposals, and keep a list of potential classes that our group can provide. So if you've got thoughts on either of those, send them to me. And I'd say otherwise, our next meeting is at It's on June the 6th. We meet on the first Monday of each month. So next one would be June the 6th at 2 p.m. Central. We just scheduled the new day and time, and hopefully it's working for folks. But if we continue to have light attendance, I might look at adjusting that as well. So please reach out if you'd like to attend. We'd be glad to have you. We'll get you the meeting invites, and I think that's all I've got, Chief.
Hey, Christine, can I ask Mark a quick question? Hey, Mark, just so you know, I don't have anything on my calendar for that, so I'll just send you an email of mine and see if you can try resending that to me, because yeah, I totally missed that last week and didn't even know that we had that.
Doug, I'll
That's
add you,
fine.
Carl.
All right,
Yeah,
that sounds good. Thanks.
I think it would have originally come from Tim with ICC. So if you don't see that, or but yeah, definitely let us know. We'll just forward it out again and make sure everybody's got it. So I heard from several that they didn't have it. So.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Oh, you're muted, Christine.
I try to be respectful and then I forget that I'm off mute, on mute. So we will go to the next item on the agenda is a report from Director Sayers, and I'm looking and I don't see him on. So I don't know if Director Brown is able to give us a report, if anything, not to put him on the spot, if he's still on. I saw him. I think he's logged in, but I think he's in a meeting. Okay, I don't have anything for my report. It'll be a little bit later in the agenda. And then a report from our Vice Chair, Tim Deal.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning. I'm just taking a break in from the conference that I'm at, so real brief, real quick. I did have a meeting with the building membership council and the outreach and continuity committee. So I'll be following up with that as the co-chair now. So you'll be seeing more of that. I know we're going to coordinate some events and keep moving forward. And the next meeting for that group actually will be June 1st is when we have it scheduled, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I would invite anybody who would like to listen in. Please participate and let me know, and I'll make sure you get on the list. That's about all I got right now. Like I said, quick down and dirty, just taking a break from the conference.
Hey, Christine, there was an echo coming through, so I had to put you on mute for a second.
Sorry about that.
No, it's all right.
God, just slid it in. I did it again. Okay, thank you, Tim. We appreciate your time taking a break to jump on this meeting. Okay, going on to the next item, ongoing business. The ICC annual awards process. Carl?
Sure. Just a quick reminder to the governing committee members that we've got the Robert W. Gain Fire Prevention Leadership Award. The governing committee has voted to do an endorsement for one of the candidates, and we are putting that forward. So I've got that on my plate to do and have yet to deliver that to Christine and Tim, but we'll do that this week. The other quick reminder is that we need to form the review committee along with the Building Membership Council to review Innovation and Code Administration Award applications. It shouldn't be too difficult here based on what I've seen in terms of volume. I mean, it's good volume, but I think there are some well put together applications in there to consider, and it won't be a heavy lift because they're well organized. So just a reminder that we'll have to put that group together and that we staff that out with an ICC member, an IAFC member, and a NASFM member to do that. And there are a similar number of folks on the Building Membership Council side that will assist with that in a joint review meeting. So those are the only reminders that I had for those.
Great, thank you. Sorry. Okay, so Next item is the annual conference and expo that is in mid-September. Before I throw it to Carl to give some more specifics for the governing committee members, I just wanted to put out a reminder for the governing committee members that this is designed as an in-person meeting. We meet twice a year in person, and there aren't currently any plans to have it be virtual. So we're really encouraging people to take the time and participate in person. Again, our timeframes are a bit tight, so we're looking at trying to meet additionally and outside of the schedule for the membership council meetings. So, and Carl can get a little bit deeper with that, but I do want to just put in the reminder that having the collaboration and the networking and the meeting in person is so much more beneficial than trying to do things virtually. And when we split up, virtual and in person, we just don't get that kind of time, I don't think, and that work that we're able to accomplish of the many projects we have. So with that, Carl, I'll pass it to you for to let the governing committee know about schedule and how to register for things and things like that.
Sure, thanks. So just a quick test drive of the ICC conference hearings expo page. So you have all the information you need on the annual conference and expo. I put it in the chat, but I just wanted to show folks how to kind of drive around in there. Before I get started with that, I wanted to let the governing committee know that I did send out an email earlier this week and then followed that one up on the same thread. What it's got in there is the information for the conference agenda, which I'll show you, the hotel information, which is super important. I know those are selling out pretty quickly. So as a matter of fact, Chief Lane just texted me and let me know that I think he had a little difficulty finding government rate available maybe at a couple of the hotels already. So sooner the better on the hotel reservations, even if you have to put a placeholder in and adjust your reservations. I get that done now. I don't have a suggestion for you on exactly where to stay in that. We don't, as staff, arrange our own hotel and travel for that. It's done by staff, our conference staff. So the one thing that I can tell you is that we are not in the hotel where the ICC board of directors are. That part I do know, but where we're going to be at this point, I don't know. So I would get in there and take a look at your opportunities for reservations as quickly as you can. I also did forward a link to the group that includes a complimentary registration link for Fire Service Membership Council Governing Committee members. So you can get a full conference registration complimentary as a member of the governing committee for your participation. So we look forward to having you there. That does not include any of the other a la carte options and tours and so forth, but I believe it does, your full conference does get you to the dinner. So with that, I was just going to click on the agenda here really quickly to show you the overview. Things start on the weekend of the 10th and the 11th. You'll see the ICC board meets on the 10th. And then also, as always, there are elections. So there is a nominating committee candidates forum on Sunday, September 11th from noon until 1 that I know is always a big draw for folks. And then coming out of that, there's the initial report of the nominating committee just ahead of the Expo happy hour. So those are big ones there. I certainly don't want to leave anything out, particularly the Ron Burton golf outing, which I know is an important piece for our members and for our leadership, as well as there are a few tours in there, including Churchill Downs, Belle of Louisville, Riverboat, and some other things there on that Sunday with the Expo happy hour, 6 to 7, 7 to 10 for Welcome to Louisville. Monday is the ABM, or the annual business meeting. So you hear a lot of our folks talk about that. That is the big annual business session for the Code Council. We encourage you to attend, and also you have the opportunity as a Code Council member, if you are a member, to be able to participate and vote for elections at that point. And I do know that there are a few people up and a few others running for other positions. So you'll start to see that information filter out here shortly if you've not seen it yet. Our meetings really are centered around two things. One, education programs, as I did mention in my email, and I'll let the rest of the audience know. The education sessions have been determined at this point, and there's an announcement coming out on those next week. So those education programs are here on Tuesday morning, 8 to 11:15, which I'm highlighting for you. And then also 1:30 to 4:30. I know those are usually a big draw for folks who attend these meetings. Also, the Government Relations Department is bringing back our GR Forum, which is always a big draw, 8 to 11. We'll have more information on that, but it's looking like a great lineup as well, so that if you don't have an education program that morning, we certainly want to ask you to attend the GR Forum. That's always a lot of great information, and we're sorry if it competes with another program that you want to go to as well too, but that's kind of the schedule that we have. Louisville Slugger Museum tour is Tuesday. There's also, I'll point out to this group of interest, a vintage fire museum tour in the afternoon. That is up against the education programs, but we are working to make sure that program conflicts are minimized for fire service members in that one. So again, more information next week on the education. And then, as Christine mentioned, membership council meetings are the big one here. Middle of the week on Wednesday, you'll see that we start the morning 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. with a joint membership council meeting. That will include elections for any seats that are open. And then immediately following that, 9 to 11, the membership councils will meet. The FSMC will have its own room, and I will present that. Mark, I just saw your message. I think that's a good question. It has been that the Innovation and Code Administration Award has been presented at the GR Forum in the past. I don't know the full answer to that quite yet, because I do know that we've tried to put all the awards together and then kind of schedule them out to be presented at different times. So that one I don't have a good answer for, but I'll run it to ground for next month's meeting for you and share that information with Bill Nash as well. Public comment hearings start immediately after the membership council meeting, so a brief break, but straight into the public comment hearings at noon, and then those run through the 20th. So you'll see that there is a September 11 to 21. I believe that's just a placeholder. There are no events the 21st, but it is if the code hearings run as scheduled and up against the 7 p.m. time frame on Tuesday, that certainly wouldn't leave a lot of time for folks to get home. So I believe for planning purposes, you want to plan through the 21st, depending on the schedule for the hearing. So the next piece of this is the hotel and travel. I did send you a link on that, but here are the 4 hotel blocks. As I said, get in there and get them quick. And then there's also other travel information and so forth. The next big question you're likely going to have for us is the hearing information. Hearings have not been posted yet. They will be posted in August, so you'll see the hearing schedule available in early August. You can right now sign up for text message alerts for the hearings here just by going in and entering a phone number pretty quickly, and that'll get you the information that you need. So that's all that I've got on the annual conference and Expo, Christine.
Great. Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions for Carl about the conference or any of the information that he has shared with us today? Okay, we'll continue having these discussions, and please let Tim, Carl, or I know if you have any questions or concerns about the scheduling. And as we're going to be moving forward, we're hoping to learn who can attend so that we can make some arrangements to any kind of supplemental meeting scheduling that we can do, kind of when you're coming in, when you're leaving, that kind of thing. So Okay, if there's nothing else on that, next item is our next meeting is June 16th on Microsoft Teams. And then the next item is questions or comments from the audience. I do want to throw it to, we have representatives. I saw Mark and Tom from BMC. If you would like to say anything to the group. Not quite sure if they may not be there. And then I'd like to throw it to Rock Ming from Global Membership Council. Oh, Rock, your hand is up.
Thank you.
Good timing.
Greetings from the global membership. Exactly. I do have some news I want to share. Just follow Carl's subject. So we do have the global forum topic and keynote speaker confirmed. The topic will be learning from tragedy. The keynote speaker is Grill Kernock, who is the author of Catastrophe. So hopefully that'll be a really good event. In addition, UAE, the United Arab Emirates Civil Defense Authority, they have made requests that we do a presentation on fire code. So I just want to reach out to the Fire Service Committee, see if there's any interest. We can hopefully put a presentation together. Lastly, do have some exciting news. So the global membership, we have this sister chapter program, which started before the pandemic. Which is a mentor program that a local chapter will basically mentor an overseas chapter. So we just received a first application from Kenya. In addition, the Virginia Building Code official is actually the mentor, so they're going to oversee that. So DC is working with another country. I mean, there's tremendous interest in the Caribbean, Middle East, and Southeast Asia. So there are other chapters overseas. Just want to see if there's any interest from our local chapters that might be interested to be a sponsor to other overseas chapters. And then so we will be doing a webinar on lithium-ion batteries later of this year. And then we also, just kind of, find out from our membership that, if there's any other interest topics. I do have 4 or 5 topics that related to fire codes or, fire protection subjects. Maybe I'll share with Carl or the education committee, see if we could do a joint webinar or education programs. So I'm definitely open to that.
Great,
that's all
thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for being here. Okay, Bill Nash, your hand is up.
Yes, Christine, thank you. I just wanted to thank you. I apologize. I've been in and out paying attention as best I can. But I did notice you called on maybe a representative from the Building Membership Council, Mark Matheny, I thought might be on, and or Tom Allen. I'm not sure if they still are. But if they aren't, it is Mark. I'm not sure if you want to get an update from Mark on anything, but I'm glad to provide it. But I'm also glad to let Mark and or Tom address the group as well.
No, thank you. Yeah, it was more of giving Mark or Tom an opportunity to give any kind of update that you'd like from BMC.
I'll let
Yeah,
I'll
terrific.
defer to the vice chair.
Yeah, thanks so much. Sorry, at that moment, my boss came in and said, I need to speak with you. So, and I
had
thought,
that
man,
kind
this,
of timing apparently.
yeah, this would be the one time. So yeah, thanks for that and allowing the chance. Of course, always good to be on here and good to hear the information. We're super excited to have Tim as part of the chair sharing. Tim Deal is sharing the chair responsibilities for CNO. We've kind of rebooted CNO, and we're gonna hash that out in a little more detail on the first with this first continuity and outreach meeting. Jim Willamette and Tim Deal are going to be the sharing chairs of that. So really good with that. You know, running the same kind of concepts that obviously the continuity and outreach, but the overwatching and kind of sharing of ideas and concepts. But we've got kind of a good teamwork on that also. And it looks like for the innovation award, we'll probably be pulling that from our CVBPI, our community building best practices subcommittee. We talked about that yesterday in our meeting, and we're probably going to pull that specifically from that group this year. So yeah, just always, as always, glad to be here and glad to help out in anything we can do. Thanks so much for the time. You're muted, Christine. Christine, you got muted.
And I did not do it this time.
I don't mute myself, so when I do, I forget I'm on mute. I apologize. No, thank you very much for that. I apologize for not being able to attend your meeting yesterday. I had an appointment I had to leave workforce, so but I will definitely work on being there next month.
Yeah.
So before I open it up to everyone else on the call, I made a major foul in the agenda in that I neglected to, during the reports agenda item, get a staff report from Carl. So I'm sure this isn't going to be the last I'm going to hear about it, but I'm going to throw it back to Carl. Please give us an ICC staff report.
And I know that you were just really mad at me for having muted you a few times here today. In fact, good microphone practice, but that's okay. I understand, and I'll keep it brief. I put a couple of resources in the chat here so folks can take a look at it. Some really great news. Of course, it's Building Safety Month, so I'm not going to let that go without bringing that up. We're deep into the month so far, and I know that you've talked about the tweets and everything that the Fire Service Membership Council has done. We've had some great webinars, Facebook Live events. I had some of our colleagues on from FEMA to talk about FEMA's new building code strategy earlier this week. And that event was recorded. It's available on our YouTube page. And we will also be emailing out for folks that registered a link to that, as well as the presentations that were done in there too. So if you haven't seen that, check it out. And when I get done with my report here, I'll make sure that I put a link to the YouTube video in the chat for everybody else to take a look at. The other big news that we've got, we did a push on this, and you may have seen it, you may not have already, but we have a brand new Wildland Urban Interface resource for folks to take a look at. So just go to our main site, iccsafe.org/WUI, WUI, or you can just search it, Wildland Urban Interface. And we put that together really as a kind of a multifocal kind of resource for folks that really, it does drive to the International Wildland Urban Interface Code, but it does characterize the WUI issue. It does talk about resources that are out there. There are really great pieces of data, resources for folks to be able to take a look at in terms of characterizing not only the hazard, but their community risk. So we do cover a number of those tools. And then as an outcome of that, we do talk quite a bit in there, of course, about the International Wildland Urban Interface Code and link to the Freeview version of that. So that's been a long time in coming. I wanted to make sure that I publicly thank not only the ICC web team, but also my colleague, Joe Salad. Joe works with Ryan Kolker on our staff, who many of you know, and Joe was incredible to be able to help out with many of the nuts and bolts details to get this page done. And it's a main page with 3 other redirects to sub pages in it and some really great information. So again, check that out, iccsafe.org/WUI. Last week attended on the topic of wildland fire. Our colleagues at the National Fire Protection Association, or NFPA, hosted a approximately 50-person wildland fire summit in Sacramento, California. was very pleased to be able to represent the Code Council along with the other thought leaders in this area that were brought together at the national level to discuss this. So you'll see in the next 2 weeks, our report will be out. There may be an interim release and then kind of a final update, but a lot of the recommendations that we talked about in there were really centered around strengthening individual residential homes that are existing in housing stock today, because that really is the high percentage area where the problem is, right? So this was again a national level conversation. I think there are not only some lanes for the NFPA to be able to spend a little bit of time taking a look at some of their products and approaches and standards, mainly the NFPA 1300 standard and community risk reduction, and taking a look at how characterizing some of the risk around and doing risk assessment around homes is something that might be able to fit in their lane. Of course, for us, it's the IWIC working with all of the other companion codes, and then also the ICC 605 standard process, which was approved by the board a while back, but the members of the sitting committee were approved back in March in Rochester at the board meeting there. So we are in the process of standing that group up. I expect by this time next month, we will at least have had an initial meeting, and that ICC 605 standard is really an above code standard. It will be different from the IWIC, but we're determining scope along with the pins that we had submitted, and getting something to react to for that committee to discuss at its first meeting, just so that they've got something to react to in terms of an agenda and a proposed outcome on that. So certainly more to come, and we expect that standard to probably take us about 18 months to 24 months to get done, but really looking forward to that. So I think based on the conversations that we had in Sacramento, as a group, we've got lots of recommendations that will likely point directly to the new Wildland Fire Commission that is being stood up by FEMA and the interagency partners at USDA, Forest Service, and the Interior. So that group is being selected now. They received hundreds of applications, and we'll only be able to take about 20 people, but I do know that interviews are happening, and the selection process has been down selected to kind of like a final 40 to get to 20. So I'm expecting good things from that, and many of the recommendations, as I said, that we came out with will be pointing, they won't only just be public, but we'll point them directly at that Wildland Fire Commission and other leaders in the federal interagency and state and local government to implement those. Next week, I'm headed to the IAFC's Community Risk Reduction Leaders Conference that's being held in Toronto, Canada. At that time, we'll be presenting the Excellence in Fire and Safety Leadership Award to a member of the Fire and Life Safety Section team who remains untold at this point, to be able to keep it a surprise. But some folks already know who it is that are FLSS board members. So I'll be presenting that award up in Toronto, and it was supposed to be presented back in 21, but the COVID-19 pandemic got in the way of doing that. So really looking forward to completing that loop, as that award's been sitting here at my house for probably 8 months now, and it was good to be able to get that out the door. Last but not least, Code of Honor Scholarship is available for members. If you know of anyone, or you yourself are having budget difficulties in your jurisdiction, and you're not a member of the governing committee where some of your expenses are being underwritten to attend the ICC annual conference and Expo, there is a grant program out there that we have, Code of Honor Scholarship Program, that will either do a partial or potentially, depending on financial hardship, 100% underwriting of someone's attendance to the conference. And I'll put a link to that. But again, it's if you go to our website and just type in the search bar Code of Honor Scholarship, you'll get more information on that. And that's all that I've got. So thanks so much, and appreciate it.
Great. Thank you, Carl.
Yeah.
All right. Is there any comments, good of the order, from the group? Looking, please just raise your hand in the Zoom room so I can see. Yes, great. Welcome.
Good morning or afternoon. Just want to say we are continuing our process in California when we're looking at international existing code to bring in chapters 6 through 11 and 13 with modifications. And we are running a work group for our next triennial using the international WUI code as a model for California. So a lot of work to be done. It's a very active several active work groups. So just a heads up on that, and everyone have a great day. Or any questions?
Great. Thank you, Greg. Anyone else? All right. Seeing none. Thank you all for your attendance. I will welcome a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Wassom.
Second.
Second, Lane.
Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next month. All right. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.